Welcome everyone, TheDailyWoo here, Niceville Christian Church. I'm in Niceville, Florida. I've actually left St. Cloud, Florida this morning. And I've drove, whichever way you want to pronounce it. I have not slept very much. I woke up about 5 a.m., left St. Cloud around 6, traveled up I-75, connected with I-10. I'm heading westbound. I'll be spending the next few days on Interstate 10 until I get to California, but I had to make a pit stop in the hometown where I grew up from 1984 to 1988, 89. And I've done a few other videos. In fact, I've done 3 other locations. The house I grew up in a couple years ago, the school I went to school at, and there was one other video which I cannot recall where that was, but this video is from the church that my dad was the minister at. All 4 or 5 of those years that we lived here. Right through here was the pulpit, the congregation, and the pews, all still in there. In fact, today is Sunday. They actually did have church service. But we had lunch, and I say we because I'm talking about Alex right here, who's not a Niceville resident. He lives in Crestview, which is about 15 minutes or so away from Niceville. But we met up, and he took me to Po Folks. Po Folks is a southern restaurant, and it's right down here. If you look past this light, Po Folks was not here when I lived here as a child, but now you can barely see it on the right-hand side past that gas station. There's a really awesome place called Po Folks. It was actually the first place as a child that I actually ate and consumed a moon pie. It's my second channel, daily blog channel. It's the Daily Niceville Christian Church. And Alex trying to hide from the vlog, but he's not. He's actually in the vlog right there. He's wearing a Back to the Future shirt. He also is a fan, and like I always like to say, a self-proclaimed aficionado of 80s pop culture. I am wearing my Large Marge Sent Me t-shirt. He's wearing his Time Machine DeLorean t-shirt. And when we were at Po Folks, the server who was seating us was very excited because he also is into pop culture. He was showing us his Doctor Who watch. What else was he talking about? He also had, what was his tattoos that guy had? He had tattoos on his arms. What was the Boondock Saints? There you go. So he was very excited to see 2 80s nerds like us walk in there in Po Folks. But I wanted to show you this awesome place. This is a place from my youth, a little history, a little Adam history right here. It's amazing how everything looks so much smaller when you return something from your childhood. I remember running around here, coming up here on my bike. We only lived about 2 miles from here. Riding my bike up here to see my dad. His office was in the back of the church. Actually, a few years ago, I came up here and there was actually somebody at the church. And I actually got to go inside and reminisce and walk through the church itself, see my dad's old office. Right over here was actually the church nursery. Right in here is where the kids would actually be being watched, the little infants and little toddlers, while the sermon was being taught and preached. Right over here also, the little shed right there has always been there. And this used to be a volleyball court. And one thing I always remember, there was lots of thorns and stickers and ants all around in here, but they've actually cleaned out all those thorns. And it actually looks pretty nice now. They actually have a whole new parking area. My dad's office was right around this back corner. So if you went past this little play area that was not here, and you went in that door, that was my dad's, that was the pastor's office right through there. I also remember one time there was a massive hurricane coming through this area of Florida, and everyone in the church actually parked all their cars right in here side by side. That way, if there was a huge gust of wind or a tornado, the cars couldn't be tossed around. All the cars were less than an inch from each other, all here in the grass and all on that concrete, and we spent all our time hunkered down in those windows right in there, playing Monopoly and board games because there was no power. So a lot of memories right here at Niceville Christian Church. One thing that's very interesting also is a little funny story that my dad, if he's watching this, by the way, today is my dad's birthday. So if you follow my dad either on Facebook or YouTube, wish him a happy birthday from his son. I left early this morning, gave him a hug, gave my mom a hug, heading cross country after a wonderful week of Christmas with my aunt, my uncle, my mom, and my dad. But today is my dad's birthday. And a little memento for you, Dad. Remember when we actually buried the time capsule right here at the Niceville? You know what a time capsule is?
Yes, I do.
What exactly is a time capsule?
Time capsule is...
You're wearing a time machine shirt, so you should definitely be an expert on time.
Traveling, yes. Time capsule is when you just take a lot of books, items from that year that you actually put that in the ground, and then you bury it, and then like 50, 100 years ago, you dig it up and say, wow, look at all this cool stuff, all this cool crap.
That's how it's supposed to hypothetically work.
Oh.
So what they did here, my dad spearheaded this entire project of taking mementos of the past. Now they're from the past, but in that time they were the present. Put them in a box that would not get weather damaged and buried it in the ground. The problem is, years went by and they could not, actually, I'm incorrect. They were trying to find an old time capsule that was buried 30 or 40 years ago, and they couldn't find it. That's the story. I got it wrong. And my dad and all the church member adults were out here with shovels and post hole diggers, and they dug up every nook and cranny of this property. And my dad can tell you, they did not find anything. So the entire place was ravaged, looked like something out of Caddyshack when you're looking for the gophers. They could not find the time capsule. So somewhere on this property, that's what we could do the rest of the day. We could hunt down the time capsule if I did not have to continue moving on. I'm only here for a short while. We've already eaten. Our stomachs are filled. So lots of yarns. I got the time capsule thing wrong. I was incorrect. But I got it right in the grand scheme of things. At the end, I redeemed myself of the time capsule. And one other cool story, the whole main reason I wanted to stop here was to give you a lesson in humility. Because this, in my youth, I moved here in 1984, I would have been 10 years old until 89, so from 10 years old to 15 years old, Niceville, Florida was a very fantastic place. And since you're wearing a Back to the Future shirt, this was the town I actually saw Back to the Future. Back to the Future came out in 1985. Of course, I moved here in 84. We lived over about a mile or two from here on Hudson Circle. I discovered Mountain Dew, which I'm obsessed with Mountain Dew now here in Niceville. And I also discovered the greatest movie ever created, 1985, Robert Zemeckis classic, Back to the Future. So definitely a lot of memories here.
Is this the first time reveal of that?
No, it's not. But I always love talking about Back to the Future. Anytime I can just throw that in there and how it's the greatest movie for me, I always like throwing that in there. But another memory for me is the very first time I was put in my place by having an ego or bragging a little too much. Judging by the figure I have now and my physique now, you would never actually guess that I was actually quite the runner when I was a child. I won a lot of awards. I actually won one of those medals, the Billy Bowlegs Midnight Run. Do they still have that?
Billy Bowlegs, they still have it.
The Billy see, he knows what I'm talking about. Billy Bowlegs Midnight Run. I ran track at the Rocky Bayou Christian School. I was pretty much the fastest kid in school at that age. I was very young. I had no fat on my body, which is the complete opposite of what we're dealing with right now. And I got a little cocky. I got a little bit of an ego. I thought I could beat anyone. And one day at youth group, there was a group of two guys that showed up to the youth group. And one of them, there were two brothers. One of the brothers said, my brother is the fastest person on earth or in this town, whatever. So he battled me to a race that happened right here, starting where my van is parked, a little bit farther back. It was a full-on sprint. What would that probably be, 30 yards? And it ended right here where this X is, right about in here. What would that be from my van to here? Maybe a little farther than the van. 20 yards, 30 yards. It was a 20 or a 30-yard dash. So we came out here. I was bragging. I cannot be beaten. I cannot be beaten. I cannot be beating. Spoiler alert, was beaten. And I tucked my head between my legs. And I felt like a schmuck because I bragged and bragged and bragged. And that was the first time in my life that I actually remember bragging. And they always say pride goes before a fall. I fell and I lost. So I learned a lesson in humility right here in front of Niceville Christian Church appropriately. So a little memento of memory for me that I've shared now with Alex, Back to the Future lover, and Southern food generous cooker. You didn't cook the food, you just ate the food.
Yes, enjoyed it as well.
Enjoyed it very well. I don't know if you really like Southern food. I actually suggested that, and you were like, I don't want to say what you texted back or you put on Instagram back, but he has quite the memory of Po Folks. We won't bring that up because we don't want Po Folks seeing that. I love Po Folks,
ruin their reputation.
but Po Folks is more of a memory than it is. It's not like you go there because it's an awesome, super fancy place. You go there because of the memories. At least that's why I go to most of the places. That's why I eat so much, because I'm always traveling. I'm like, man, I remember that place. I need to have a 9-course meal shoved down my throat just to stir up the memory. That's at least the excuse I give my mom, which is so they need to stop eating it as much. All right, happy birthday to my dad. Did you hear that?
Happy birthday,
It's my dad's
Dad.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to JWW on the move. Jim, my dad, who was the minister right here. All right, we're going to let you guys go. Wave goodbye from Niceville, Florida. I'm on my way. By the way, when you see this, it will already be uploaded, and I will have left Niceville. I'm continuing on trying to be in California by New Year's Eve day. So I'm moving very quickly. I will try to post tomorrow morning where I will be tomorrow down Interstate 10 all the way. I'm not sure how far I'm going to get tonight, but I will keep you posted. Definitely get a hold of me on social networks, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and I'll see you guys later. Large Marge sent me. The Time Machine sent him, and his beard is epic, more than mine has ever been. I used to have a long beard, but it was never as, I was trying to think of this, I was going to say stagnant. But it's not stagnant. It is kind of stagnant, but it's awesomely stagnant. All right, see you guys. Bye.